Returning from its recess, you can watch all of our journal segments at cspan.org.
Sure that was a question, but for the further consideration of H.R. 3606. Will the gentleman from Idaho, Mr. Simpson, kindly take the chair?
The House is in the Committee of the Whole House on the State of the Union for the further consideration of H.R. 3606, which the clerk will report by title.
American job creation and economic growth by improving access to the public capital markets for emerging growth companies.
When the Committee of the Whole House rose earlier today, Amendment number 17, printed in House Report 112-409, offered by the gentleman from Iowa, Mr. Loebsack, had been disposed of. Pursuant to Clause 6 of Rule 18, proceedings will now resume on those amendments printed in House Report 112-409, on which further proceedings were postponed in the following order. Amendment number 15 by Mr. Peters of Michigan, Amendment number 16 by Ms. Capps of California. The Chair will reduce to 2 minutes the minimum time for any electronic vote after the first vote in this series. The unfinished business is a request for a recorded vote on Amendment number 15, printed in House Report 112-409 by the gentleman from Michigan, Mr. Peters, on which further proceedings were postponed, on which the noes prevail by a voice vote. The clerk will redesignate the amendment.
Amendment number 15, printed in House Report number 112-409, offered by Mr. Peters of Michigan.
Recorded vote has been requested. Those in support of the request for a recorded vote will rise and be counted. Sufficient number having arisen, a recorded vote is ordered. Members will record their votes by electronic device. This will be a 15-minute vote.
The House now voting on a few amendments before taking a final vote on the Jumpstart Our Business Startups bill. It's a bill that's meant to improve access to the public capital markets for small and medium-sized companies and startups. This particular amendment, offered by Michigan Democrat Gary Peters, would require publicly traded companies to disclose on an annual basis the total number of employees they have in each country and the percentage increase or decrease in employment in each country. Meanwhile, the Senate today continues debate on the surface transportation bill. Minority Leader Pelosi stressed the importance of moving forward on the transportation bill at her briefing this past hour. Here are some of her comments.
Good morning, everyone. As you are probably aware, late in the day yesterday, the Senate came to agreement on amendments to its bipartisan transportation bill. It is our hope that something similar will happen in the House of Representatives. So far as we can see, our Republican colleagues have been in disarray on the subject of what, how, and when a transportation bill will come to the floor. It's very important that we move forward with this big job creator. It is important also that we move away from what the Republicans have put forth already. They put forth a bill that would cost us 550,000 jobs, would cut highway investments in 45 states, and bankrupt the Highway Trust Fund by $78 billion, and according to the Secretary of Transportation, Ray LaHood, would also not only hurt jobs, but hurt safety. Instead of working together on a transportation bill, which is one of the biggest job initiatives Congress can pass, the Republicans are once again bringing to the floor some bills that we've passed before overwhelmingly. They're non-controversial, but they are a jobs bill light, especially compared with what we need to do on the transportation bill. Again, we're in budget season, and in our communications within our own caucus and on the Budget Committee, it is clear to see that once again in this year's budget the Republicans will break the Medicare guarantee. This is very, very important to our country, to our seniors, to America's families, to our economy, to not only health but the economic well-being of America's seniors, and we will fight very hard for that. What the Republicans are putting forth ends the American Medicare guarantee, transfers costs to our seniors, and contributes to the withering on the vine, which has always been their vision for Medicare. I'm going to receive some of you getting ready for St. Patrick's Day? In San Francisco, we've been celebrating it since right after Valentine's Day, and it'll go right up to Cinco de Mayo with a little bit of Easter and Passover in between. But since we won't be here exactly on the day of St. Patrick's Day, I want to wish that to you. Some of our members have been wearing green corsages for a while. For my own part, I don't have Irish grandparents, but I do have Irish grandchildren, and they're very proud that next week I will receive the inaugural award from it's the Trinity College Dublin Philosophical Society Award. So I'm very excited about that. It's an honor that I'm overwhelmed by. The fact that it takes place in my 25th year, observe my 25th year in Congress, makes it a very special honor for me, and that it happens on top of the privilege of, which I think I mentioned to you, giving the presentation at President George Herbert Walker Bush's Library and School of Public Policy and Public Service and Government on President's Day. That was February. This is March. I'm very honored by those, as well as the privilege of representing my constituents for 25 years. On a very sad note, for us, this is so personal and so sad that we lost Congressman Donald Payne earlier this week. He was a beloved figure in the Congress, in the country, and indeed around the world. He cared about the health, well-being of everybody, especially our children. He just didn't take good enough care, in my view, of his health, I guess, because he has now left us because of cancer. He cared about children on the Education Committee. That was his focus, the needs of our children wherever they lived, but especially addressing the needs of children in disadvantaged areas. I had the privilege of being with him in different continents, and we all have stories because he was a senior member of the Foreign Affairs Committee. But when we were in Liberia at the AME University, that would be the African Methodist Episcopal University in Monrovia, we were there when they dedicated their, people came from all over Africa to honor him, to dedicate a library named for Donald Payne a number of years ago. So he not only knew everything about Africa, especially, he knew the world, but focused on Africa. He not only knew everything about Africa, he not only knew the leaders of those countries, but they knew him. And those who were worthy of his respect returned that attitude toward him. So again, it's a very personal loss for all of us in the House of Representatives, and I'm so proud that the President has acknowledged his great contribution to our country. I myself had the privilege of naming him our House representative to the United Nations General Assembly in recognition of his leadership and service to our country. With that, I'll be pleased to take any questions you may have.
It's been a lot of news lately, but Georgetown law student Sandra Fluck, she told Congress that contraception can cost over $3,000 for a woman during her time in law school, yet the Target store 3 miles away sells a supply of birth control pills for $9 a month to women who do not have health insurance. Was her testimony accurate?
I have a great deal of respect for the testimony that Sandra Fluck presented to Congress. She was factual, she was courageous, and she made a difference in the debate in our country, and we were honored by her presentation. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
On the jobs bill, when you kind of mentioned it just now, you talked about it as bringing forward bills that have been brought forward before.
Yes.
Jobs bill light. Jobs bill light, pardon me. House Republican leadership, they're pushing it. The White House has signed off and is supporting it. Why not? I'm just surprised why you're not trumpeting it as a rare showing of bipartisanship on Capitol Hill, where it is so lacking so often. Why not?
Well, it's because it's so meager. Trumpet, ta-ta-ta-ta, Here comes the little king. This is, yes, it's bipartisan. When we pledge the flag, that's a big thing. That's a big thing, and we have a oneness about us in many ways here. But when it comes to this bill, compared to what the possibilities are, this transportation bill is long overdue. The authorization of the transportation bill is something that we have been urging, and even when we had the majority, the Republicans in the Senate were obstructing anything of the size that we really needed, 5 to 6 year transportation bill. But this is a bill that creates jobs immediately in our country, construction jobs to build. The Society of Civil Engineers says that we have a deficit of in the trillions of dollars, say $2.5 to $3 trillion, to be modest, to be conservative. $2.5 to $3 trillion of deficit in our infrastructure. That's, of course, roads, bridges, high-speed rail, the rest of that, mass transit, and in addition to that, broadband, which is now a newer form of infrastructure, and very important, our water infrastructure. Some of our infrastructure for water is made of bricks and wood, decades, maybe 100 years old. That's a sanitation issue as well. So it's what is the need? And there is an urgency about it for job creation immediately, for what it does to commerce, the spread of commerce, moving people to and from home, moving product to and from market. It is again, it's about the vitality of our country and isn't historic. Thomas Jefferson called for the building of our infrastructure. In those days, they called them internal improvements to build out to America. The Louisiana Purchase, followed the Lewis and Clark expedition, the Cumberland Road, the Erie Canal. 100 years later, Theodore Roosevelt observed the 100-year anniversary by announcing the establishment of the National Park Service to reinforce our green infrastructure in our country. 100 years later, we did not observe that. I was hoping that we would under President Bush, but infrastructure was not a priority then, and so we're behind in doing this infrastructure bill. I want to hasten to also add another great Republican president, President Eisenhower, the Interstate Highway Commission system. All of these things done really at a time when we didn't have a lot of money to spare. So it wasn't as if we were building the Golden Gate Bridge and the Bay Bridge in addition to the Golden Gate Bridge in our area, which we're observing the 75-year anniversary this year on, at a time when we were flush with money. And we're not flush with money now, but we've got to make these investments. So when you see what the need is and the opportunity is there, it's bipartisan in the Senate. They've agreed on their amendments. Let's get moving. People's hopes are pinned on our passing this transportation bill. These guys are saying my way or the highway. It's just not right. So when you talk about this, yes, it's a good thing. We've passed these, 4 of them I think we've passed, a number of them we've passed already with over 400 votes. Okay, already. We've done it. It's good. Let's do it again. But let's not mistake it for what we need to do for a real, serious, comprehensive jobs bill for our country.
Madam Leader, is an elongated GOP presidential primary beneficial for the Democrats?
Well, you know, here's what I say about all politics. You never know. You know, you can't predict anything. It is what it is. It depends on how the Republican Party will come together later. That's really up to them. We have to be prepared as we are. We're 2/3 of the way from the last election. So we're on our way to this election 8 months, a little less than 8 months away. I think that all assumptions in politics are false, stale. It's all new for the situation that you are in. Having said that, I think it would have been much stronger for the Republicans to have a nominee by now.
Madam Leader, since you were talking about transportation a moment ago, has there been any outreach now that this bill that the Republicans propounded to the Democrats to say, look, you know, is there some way you can help us on this? Is there any talk at this point between your office, Mr. Boehner's office, Mr. Mica, about a bridge bill? Nothing like that yet?
Well, there have been some member-to-member outreach going on, yeah.
But is that to the level where it's like, hey, here are 3 or 4 options we might be able to?
Not between the Speaker's office and the Leader's office, but there have been I believe on the committee level there's been some communication. But it doesn't, you know, we're just waiting for the Speaker's office to...
Because this is so dire, do you think, though, that it shouldn't have been kicked up to that level at this stage of the game? We only have 2 weeks when we come back here.
Well, I'm hopeful that the Republicans will come to their conclusion that remember our old friend, the payroll tax cut, where in the Senate, the President, the Republicans, and the Democrats in the Senate, and the Democrats in the House came to a place of agreement, and the Republicans in the House were isolated until they came around. Well, once again, we have a situation where we have a bipartisan bill in the Senate, which we could readily accept as House Democrats, and that the President wants to have a transportation bill passed. Once again, the Republicans in the House are showing how out of the, even away from their own Senate counterparts, how far off they are on this. Off the track, you might say, if you were speaking about a transportation bill. Have I exhausted every pun for a transportation bill? I'll come back.
There are reports this morning that the White House is lobbying hard to defeat the Republican Keystone Pipeline Amendment in the Senate, which would overturn his decision. By working hard to defeat that, is the President playing into the Republican argument that he's not leading on energy independence?
Well, I really don't know that that is the case. I mean, I don't know that the President, it's not happening in the House right now, so if he is, I'm not aware of that. I don't know that the President is lobbying that. What I will tell you is the following, that this issue is one that has to be, we have to stipulate to a set of facts. Do I say that to you from time to time? Let's stipulate to a set of facts. There are those who are saying that this pipeline is necessary, as you as I inferred from what you implied in your statement, that this is a source of energy for our country. But the fact is there's no evidence to support that. In fact, the Prime Minister, Stephen Harper of Canada, said, no Keystone Pipeline, no problem. I'm very serious about selling our oil off this continent. I think that everyone knows that the fact is this pipeline was going to be built, or may still be built, to bring oil to the refineries to take it overseas. This isn't about domestic consumption, so it really doesn't relate. And the fact is, if you want me to again, I will tell you that in terms of domestic production, since President Obama has been president, there are 4 times more oil rigs than there were when he became president. That if you take all the oil rigs and the gas rigs, put them together, combined, they exceed all the rigs in the rest of the world. So in terms of extraction and domestic production and the rest, when the President says all of the above, he means it. So it's about domestic production, it's about renewables, it's about alternatives, as he said, I think so. When I say beautifully, I mean in terms of the setting that he was in yesterday. This is, we need to have, whether it's oil and gas, and he said nuclear, and we have supported that in the House, too, in our compromise with President Bush, President George W. Bush. Everything is part of the solution, and we have to respect that as we transition more to renewables that do not contaminate the air our children breathe. What other point I wanted to make with you on that? Oh, so what is the impact on the price at the pump? One of the concerns that we have, in the past we've had a concern about speculation and its impact on the price at the pump. There's a healthy speculation that is part of the free market that we all recognize. There's a manipulation of the commodity that is not healthy and exploits the consumer. And in the Dodd-Frank bill, we have there's considerations for number of positions somebody can take, stopping manipulation, closing loopholes, and the rest. And right now, there are those who want to stop that curbing of the unfair manipulation of the market. The Republicans stand with them. They want to overturn those provisions that say stop the kinds of exploitive speculation that raises the price of oil and therefore the price at the pump. Remember, supply is up, demand is down thanks to the American people and their decisions. Why is the price up? Is it up because of the international price of oil, and it doesn't matter how much we bring down consumption and how much we increase production? If so, we have to have some independence to do something alternative to that. So I think that if you want to talk about the pipeline, I'm going to talk about the pipeline, but the fact is this oil was never destined for domestic production. So says the Prime Minister of Canada. That doesn't mean it might not be something that is worthy of some consideration for reasons other than domestic consumption.
Madam Leader.
Madam Leader.
Madam Leader. You're as a.
Can we have two? Oh, speaker's next, though. I don't know. Maybe I'll answer briefly. Maybe.
You're a longtime member of the Intel Committee, former member of the Intel Committee, and a leader of your party. What was your reaction? What is your reaction to the Attorney General's assertions, his statements earlier this week, justifying American government targeting of American citizens overseas who are deemed to be terrorists, and specifically that due process does not necessarily mean judicial process?
Well, I would be very interested. I've had a number of briefings in the past week or so on different subjects that relate to our national security. I haven't had one on that. I listened to some of what the Attorney General said about the distinction between due process and judicial process. Was that his distinction? But I'm not going to respond. I support the administration. To be specific, I need to get a further briefing as to what he...
About this government targeting American citizens overseas?
Well, I want to see what he intended, because, quite frankly, I'm not absolutely certain about the difference between due process and judicial process. I have to... I would like to see a briefing on that. We always have to be... our first responsibility is to protect and defend. We also have to balance security with liberty and freedom and our values. And again, I have confidence in the Attorney General. I did not have a briefing leading up to that or after, so I want to see exactly what they're talking about. Yes, sir.
Real quickly, Madam Leader, looking ahead, there looks like there's going to be a lot of things larded up into the lame duck session. Leaving aside the tax cuts and sequester, unemployment, SGR, appropriations, probably tax extenders. Is there just too much being put upon this idea that things can be kicked to the lame duck, and that there will be a definitive enough outcome in the election that these things can be dealt with on a even semi-permanent basis then?
Well, I think our goal is to, I know that our goal is to get as much done in the session as possible. And that's why we'd like to move with this transportation bill for jobs, 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 which is what the American people want us to do. The appropriations process, I would hope, would follow the agreement that we had made with the Republicans so that we can move forward on that. I hear that there's some weakening on their part to honor the agreement, but let's hope that they do, and we get some of the work that must be done by the end of the fiscal year done by then, and certainly before a lame duck. I don't know what else in that list is a must-pass. And as you say, the priorities can be so long that, well...
This is sort of fear of a train wreck, basically.
You're talking about what is an array of issues that might, pieces of legislation that might come up. I just don't know that to be so. And I just have this habit of not talking about things that I don't know about. I just don't know that we are going to be that delinquent in executing our duties between now and I guess you would say the election, but probably the month before the election, that all of that would be kicked to the lame duck. Some of it's just a decision. Whatever happens, it's just a decision. Just get it done. It's going to be the same Congress in the lame duck. It's going to be the same president in the lame duck. Let's just come together, make our compromises, find our common ground if that is possible, or not. And we can do that now just as well as we can do it 8 months, 9 months from now. Thank you all very much. I wish you a happy St. Patrick's Day whenever you begin and whenever you end the celebration. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
are 175, the nays are 239, less than the majority voting in the affirmative. The amendment is not adopted. The unfinished business is the request for a recorded vote on amendment number 16, printed in House Report 112-409 by the gentlewoman from California, Ms. Capps, on which further proceedings were postponed and on which the noes prevail by voice vote. Clerk will redesignate the amendment.
Amendment number 16, printed in House Report number 112-409, offered by Mrs. Capps of California.
Recorded vote has been requested. Those in support of the request for recorded vote will rise and be counted. Sufficient number having arisen, recorded vote is ordered. Members will record their votes by electronic device. This will be a 2-minute vote.
This is the last amendment vote to H.R. 3606, to be followed by a procedural vote and then a final vote on the Jumpstart Our Business Startup Act. The bill is broadly aimed at making access to capital easier for new companies, and among other things, it creates a new class of companies that would enjoy relaxed SEC rules, allowing small companies to go public sooner. This particular amendment, offered by California Democrat Lois Capps, would require the Securities and Exchange Commission to issue a report to Congress 1 year after the enactment of this bill on the increase in initial public offerings. The bill is expected to pass with support from Democrats both here in the House and the Senate, and President Obama has said he will sign the bill.
Vote the yeas are 172, the nays are 236. The amendment is not adopted. There being no further amendments under the rule, the committee rises.
Madam Chairwoman. The whole House on the State of the Union reports that the committee has had under consideration the bill H.R. 3606 and pursuant to House Resolution 572 reports the bill as amended by that resolution back to the House with sundry further amendments adopted in the Committee of the Whole. Under the rule, the previous question is ordered. Is a separate vote demanded on any further amendment reported in the Committee of the Whole? If not, the Chair will put them in gross. The question is on adoption of the amendments. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendments are adopted. The question is on engrossment and third reading of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. Third reading.
A bill to increase American job creation and economic growth by improving access to the public capital markets for emerging growth companies.
For what purpose does the gentlewoman from California rise?
Mr. Speaker, I have a motion to recommit at the desk, and I'd also like to say the House is not in order.
Is the woman opposed to the bill? Is the woman opposed to the bill?
In its current form.
The gentlewoman qualifies. House will be in order. House will be in order. Members, please take seats, cease conversations. Clerk will read the motion.
California moves to recommit the bill H.R. 3606 to the Committee on Financial Services with instructions to report the same back to the House forthwith with the following amendment. Page 2, line 12, insert before the period the following, and discloses publicly and to the Commission any political expenditures made by the issuer during such fiscal year. Page 3, line 21, insert before the period the following, and discloses publicly and to the Commission any political expenditures made by the issuer during such fiscal year.
Members in the back of the chamber, please cease conversations, take seats. Gentlewoman is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to yield 30 seconds to the gentleman from Massachusetts, Mr. Frank.
Mr. Speaker, I strongly support a very good recommittal motion, but I want to clarify one point. Reference was made in the debate to this bill being one that would relieve smaller businesses of regulations imposed by this administration or recently. Let me be very clear. With the exception of say-on pay, which I strongly support, the administrative and regulatory issues addressed here were not imposed by this administration, were not a result of the bill. These are long-standing things that predate this administration. So I'm for the bill, but I wanted to clear up that misconception. This is not any reaction to anything that was done recently. It's making a combination for these smaller businesses with regard to things that are of long standing. And I thank the gentlewoman for yielding.
May I proceed? Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My colleagues, this is the final amendment to improve this important piece of legislation that I fully support. Capital formation is the lifeblood of innovation.
That's correct. House will be in order. Members in the back of the chamber, please cease conversations. Gentlewoman deserves to be heard.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Capital formation is the lifeblood of innovation in the 21st century, as it was in our past in America. It's so essential to our national economy. Just as importantly, transparency is the lifeblood of our democracy. The amendment I'm offering today will ensure that emerging growth companies nurtured under today's legislation will fully disclose their political expenditures. Just as entrepreneurs deserve all the tools available to create and grow companies, voters deserve every tool to decide on public issues for themselves. Since the Supreme Court's disastrous Citizens United decision, voters across the country have been treated to a sad spectacle not seen since the Watergate era or even the Gilded Age. Mr. Speaker, I don't think the House is in order.
Gentlewoman is correct. The House will be in order. Members in the rear of the chamber, please cease conversations. Gentleman from California.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This year's presidential election is bearing witness to hundreds of millions of dollars spent on behalf of candidates. The vast majority of the money is coming from outside the channels of parties and candidates, unaccountable to the voters for the messages they deliver. Instead, money from corporations and extremely wealthy people is now being spent through so-called nonprofits and super PACs, denying and delaying disclosure or preventing it altogether. The American people deserve better. House Democrats have offered comprehensive transparency legislation called the Disclose Act, and we should pass that bill together as soon as possible. We can begin that work today by adopting this final amendment and passing the bill. It will not burden small businesses, and it will empower the American people. Mr. Speaker, this final amendment to the bill will not kill it, nor will it send it back to committee. If it's adopted, the bill will proceed to final passage as amended. Congress can say today to the American people that we respect them. We can say we trust them to decide for themselves because they have complete information. I've always believed that sunlight is the best disinfectant. By voting for this amendment and voting for the bill, we can score 2 victories for the American people. We can strengthen small businesses across our country, and we can strengthen democracy. I yield back.
The gentleman yields back the balance of her time. Gentleman from California opposed to the motion.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I rise in opposition to the motion to recommit.
The gentleman is recognized for 5 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, it never ceases to amaze me at how good my friends on the other side of the aisle have become in putting politics before jobs. They've said no to dozens of jobs bills that the House Republicans have put forward, and no to unleashing investment in small businesses. Mr. Speaker, we have all been somewhere where you've seen a family with a small child, and the child is crying and throwing a tantrum, and the parent turns and gives the child what they want, but the child still cries. Today we see another good example of something good still not being good enough for the other side. At a time when the economy is struggling, unemployment above 8% for more than 35 consecutive months, underemployment above 15%. When you have a bill here that would unshackle and unleash the small business growth. So it is beyond me why, after both subcommittees, full committee markups, where provisions passed almost unanimously, this idea never came forth. A full and open debate on the floor with 15 Democrat amendments. And what really shocks me the most, the President of the United States offers a statement in support of the bill. But when I read his entire statement, Mr. Speaker, he never mentions this motion to recommit or the concern. So, Mr. Speaker, it's one more time that the floor tries to come together, but politics are put before job growth. So I urge all my friends to come together in a bipartisan fashion the way this bill was created, to vote down this motion and support the underlying bill. I yield back the balance of my time.
The gentleman yields back the balance of his time. Without objection, the previous question is ordered. On the motion to recommit, the question is on the motion to recommit. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. No. Opinion of the chair, the noes have it.
Request a recorded vote, Mr. Speaker.
Recorded vote is requested. Those favoring a recorded vote will rise. Sufficient number having arisen. Recorded vote is ordered. Members record their votes by electronic device. This will be a 15-minute vote. Pursuant to Clause 9 of Rule 20, the Chair will reduce to 5 minutes the minimum time for any electronic vote on the question of passage.
This is a procedural vote to H.R. 3606 to be followed by a final vote on the bill called Jumpstart Our Business Startup Act. It's a bipartisan supported bill that's meant to improve access to the public capital markets for small and medium-sized companies and startups. House Majority Leader John Boehner held his weekly briefing a short time ago. We'll show you some of his comments during this vote.
Good morning, everyone. Today, the House will be passing the Bipartisan Jobs Act, another part of our plan to help American job creators. This bill will really help small businesses around our country, jumpstart them, provide access to capital. Another one of our plans that I hope the Senate will take up. Having run a small business myself, I know how difficult it is to jump through the bureaucratic hoops and red tape to get a business up and running. And I think this bill will make it easier for businesses and startups to put the capital that they need together in order to grow jobs in our country. I want to thank the Majority Leader, Mr. Cantor, for his work on this, Congressman Fincher, the Majority Whip, Mr. McCarthy, all of whom did a great job and contributed to the success of this bill. And I welcome the administration's support for this measure, and I hope that the Senate Democrats will take this up in expeditious fashion. Unfortunately, this morning we learned some news overnight that indicates that the White House is pursuing a much more disappointing approach when it comes to energy. According to reports, the President of the United States is personally lobbying senators to oppose a Keystone XL pipeline amendment in the United States Senate today. This revelation comes days after the White House denied that the President is working to stop the Keystone pipeline from being built and attempting to blame others for the delay. Now, it also comes a week after the President signaled to me and to Senator McConnell that he might be willing to work with us on some bipartisan steps forward on energy legislation that the American people support. Now, if we're going to have bipartisan action on energy, the Keystone pipeline is an obvious place to start. The American people support the construction of this pipeline, and they want the project to move forward. And I think the White House owes the American people an explanation. The President said this week he wants to see lower prices at the pump, at least in an election year. But his own policies are making matters worse and driving up the cost of energy. But by personally lobbying against the Keystone pipeline, it means the President of the United States is lobbying for sending North American energy to China and lobbying against American jobs. So the President told the nation he supports an all-of-the-above energy strategy that Republicans have long supported, but his actions don't match his words. The Energy Department now predicts that families will pay nearly $4 a gallon for gas this summer. Matter of fact, most part of the country, they're already paying $4, likely to be much higher. This is the last thing our economy needs. It's the last thing the American people need are higher energy prices. The House has passed a series of bipartisan energy bills that will address high gas prices and help create new private sector jobs in America. All they need is a vote in the United States Senate, and we can pass these to the President. Then he can show the American people that he's for an all-of-the-above energy strategy. It's time for the President to make sure that his words and his actions come together as one.
Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, last year you were the chief architect of this budget deal that set caps for the upcoming decade, and in the fall you stood by those caps even as some of your conservatives said they should be treated as a ceiling instead of a floor. Now it sounds like you're willing to revisit that deal and rewrite that agreement. Is that true? And if so, what is different now, just less than a year later?
We're working with our members on through the normal legislative process to develop our budget, and when we've got something to report, we'll let you know.
Are you willing to revisit the caps?
Our members are having a discussion about what the budget should look like, and I'm waiting for the outcome of those conversations.
Speaker Boehner,
With Poyer and a number of Democrats and Republicans in the House and Senate say they're working on deficit legislation that would include both student impairments and tax increases. Is that the sort of effort, given higher taxes, that you could support?
And I think any bipartisan effort that will help reduce our deficit and our debt is a welcome sign. And I, frankly, have encouraged them.
Speaker Boehner, the Senate...
Speaker, can you give us an up-to-date kind of status report on transportation, how difficult it's going to be to bring the wings of your party together on this particular bill, and will you, in fact, have to pass an extension?
Well, as I told the members yesterday, that the current plan is to see what the Senate can produce and to bring their bill up. And in the meantime, we're going to continue to have conversations with members about a longer-term approach, which, frankly, most of our members want. But at this point in time, the plan is to bring up the Senate bill.
Speaker Boehner.
Or something similarly, or something like it.
Speaker Boehner, considering the history of sanctions and how they have not always been successful in the past and our relationship with Israel, do you believe that we're crawling closer and closer to actually getting in a war with Iran?
I think the sanctions are having an impact on the Iranians. As you know, the Congress passed the Iran Sanctions Act. We gave the President a lot of options, put a lot of tools in the toolbox. Many of them are still there. So the President has additional options when it comes to imposing sanctions on the Iranians. And I think that he should consider pulling a few of those tools out of his toolbox, beginning to apply more pressure on the Iranians.
Speaker Boehner,
Because I can't avoid you, I might as well just call on you.
Speaker Boehner.
Loudmouth.
Thank you, sir. Should Rick Santorum and Newt Gingrich and Ron Paul drop out of the race?
You've all tried now for over a year to get me in the middle of this presidential race. Listen, one thing is clear here, that this year's election is going to be a referendum on the President's economic policies. The President's trying to make this election about everything other than his economic policies, but the American people are concerned about our economy and concerned about jobs. And that's going to continue to be my focus.
So they should stay in. They have the right to stay in.
I'm not involved in who should stay in and who should stay out.
So you have no problem with them staying in there?
Listen, I've got a big job to do here, and I'm going to stay focused on my job here.
Speaker, Leader Pelosi just a short time ago basically said about the jobs bill, kind of been there, done that. We've passed these bills before, and it is too meager. Is the jobs bill too meager?
Listen, this is aimed at helping small businesses get the capital that they need to get off the ground and to grow, and to cut out some of the red tape that gets in the way of trying to start a new business. This is another step. We've already passed over 30 bills that are sitting in the United States Senate, all of them that would help our economy grow and to produce more American jobs. This is just another step in the right direction. Jake.
I'm wondering, you're saying
You could button your shirt, pull up your tie. You don't have to look like a reporter.
Oh, come on, I take offense.
I'm inspired by all my friends here. You say you're prepared to bring up the Senate bill. You didn't pay for the payroll tax cut, which is what Democrats wanted. You passed.
They did? They didn't want to pay for it. Are you kidding me?
And you didn't pay for it.
We didn't.
Right. I'm curious if you think, it's obviously been a couple skirmishes where the Democrats have come out on top. I mean, when do you see the last House Republican win, the last win for you guys was?
Listen, this is a very difficult process that we're in. We've got a new majority. We've got 89 freshmen. And, my job every day is to work with our members, find out where the center of gravity is, and to try to move legislation that's in the best interest of our country. And we're going to continue to do that. Thanks.
Speaker, one more question. Are you prepared to bring forward the HHS ruling legislation?
A final vote coming up next on this business startup bill, H.R. 3606. It has Democrat support and is expected to pass. And a programming note, the House will return for legislative work March 19th after a week of work in members' home districts.
268, the nays are 243. Less than a majority voting in the affirmative. The motion is not adopted.
Mr. Lewis of Georgia.